Good morning, Mr. Espinoza. We are students of the media production class, and we'd like to ask you a few questions referring to the school.
All right, we'll go right ahead.
Why is it important to be on time?
Well, there's several reasons you need to be on time. In particular to school, classes start straight up at 8 o'clock, and at 8 o'clock you should be in your seat and already starting the instruction. And if you're late, you're missing however long it takes you to get out of your vehicle, get to the front office to get the tardy slip, and then walk to your class, and then try to get caught up. So it just puts you behind the proverbial 8 ball. It puts you behind in your learning. So being on time is pretty important as far as we're concerned here at Koogler Middle School, because if you're not there in the seat, you're not there learning, and learning is what we're all about here at Koogler Middle School. Secondly, when you look at expectations in the job market when you get out of school, employers really frown upon you not coming to work on time, getting the job done. In fact, in the real world, it costs you your job. So just learning to be on time. Actually, my grandfather always said, it's not about being on time, it's being there before you're needed. Get there early. Be ready to go. Be ready to get the job done. And so I've always lived that. I try to be on time for everything I do. Plus, it shows respect for the people that you're dealing with. If you tell somebody you're going to be there at 8 o'clock, you're showing those individuals respect by being there at 8 o'clock. And when you show other people respect, that shows other folks that you then respect yourself. It's a sign of respect.
Why are you now closing the gates at 8?
Well, we're closing the gates at 8. One of the side effects of closing our gate, by the way, was people started to get here on time, and we had less tardies. In fact, it almost put our tardies to 0 first period. But the real reason we were shutting our gates is because we got a safety audit last year by some state police officers and immediate response folks, people who respond to things like school shootings, incidents on campus that aren't safe. And so they audited our school, and we were considered the safest school in the state of New Mexico. But they had one exception, and that was that we kept our bus lanes open throughout the day, and that we kept our pickup and drop-off lanes throughout the day, which make it easy for people who want to do harm to do harm. And in most cases, people who want to do harm at a school, they observe the school, they observe the practices so that they can make a plan. Well, by closing those gates, those 2 gates on our north side and both the parent gates on our east side, that makes us a very unfriendly target for people who want to do harm. And so odds are they'll look at our school and say, this isn't the school we want to mess with. And so it was for a safety thing. It's an inconvenience to some folks, but I would much rather put a few folks through some inconvenience than have to look a parent in the eye and say I didn't do everything I could to save their child in the event somebody came to hurt them. And so it's a school safety thing.
Why did you get rid of our Tiger Up time?
Well, we didn't get rid of Tiger Up time, but what we did do is we changed how we do it. What we found last year and the year before, we did it for 2 years, well, we gave a full class period for kids to do their homework and the work that they can get done in class. Well, what we found is that the majority of our kids were actually getting there. They'd get there and they'd already have everything done. So what I did is I made a decision that instead of wasting that 57 minutes for a good majority of my students, what we would do is put those minutes into lengthening each student's class period, so that we can do more of the work in class versus having to have a Tiger Up time class to do that in. And then the Tiger Up time class we have that are tied to our lunches are now more focused to helping kids in the areas that our testing show that they're deficient in. For example, 6th grade, knowing their math facts. For example, knowing the multiplication tables from 0 to 12, knowing how to recognize fractions, and all grade levels, knowing how to read an extended response to that question, read a passage, look at the questions, and then find the correct answer in that big passage. we struggled with in our state testing. The other thing we struggled with was writing good responses, extended responses in paragraph form in writing. And so now our Tiger Up times are designed to practice those skills that all of my students need to know, not only for testing, but for their freshman year in high school. If we build a good base here, that freshman year of high school is going to be a lot easier for them, and those freshmen who are successful tend to graduate more so than those that aren't. So that's kind of why we restructured our Tiger Up time.
Why are you so tough on the 6th graders?
I'm being tough on the 6th graders because it is such a huge transition to go from elementary mindset and way of thinking and way of receiving an education, and then move to a secondary setting. In a secondary setting, we're miniature high school. So our kids move around at least 8 times during the day for lunch, Tiger Up time, and then their classes. In elementary school, you may have 1 or 2 teachers or 1 or 2 transitions, and that transition, 6th graders are struggling. And so what we did is we decided we were going to attack behavior first. Folks who can behave generally can follow instructions and do the right thing. Then we are tackling the things that they struggled in that transition, moving kids from one place to another. Simple things like how to work a locker combination, how to get to class on time, those kind of things. And then thirdly, those things that they struggled with in 5th grade in the state testing, which was number facts, fractions, extended response questions, and writing skills. And so I'm being tough on them because they're the ones who typically show a dip in performance going from 5th grade to 6th grade, same as our 9th graders do coming from 8th grade to 9th grade. That transition hurts them a little bit. So it's not so much that I'm being tough, it's just that I care enough to start working process with them and to get them in a place where they can be successful faster. Generally speaking, in the last 3 years, it's taken us almost a semester to get our 6th graders where they need to be to learn at speed. And so our goal this year is to try to get that semester reduced to at least the first 9 weeks. By the first 9 weeks, our 6th graders should be up and running and hitting their academics really hard. And I would think that then their performance would go up. If the 6th grade performance goes up and the trend continues like our 7th and 8th graders have been above the state averages, then our school will get a better rating, which is a side effect, and that's something that's cool to see. Something besides a D. I don't believe we're a D school, but until we get our 6th grade scoring as well as our 7th and 8th graders, that's going to be hard because we get graded on all 3 grade levels versus the high school who only gets graded on one grade level, and the elementaries who only have to test the 3rd grade or the 4th or 5th grade. So we test all grades. So we have to hit all grades at state achievement levels or above to get a good grade. So that 6th grade team's got their work cut out for them, and so do my students. And they've been responding. It looks like they're learning their multiplication tables. They're working on their reading skills and their writing skills, so things are looking really good.
Is your data showing a reduction in bad behavior since your assemblies in the beginning of the year?
Actually, they have. This has been the best start to a school year we've ever had. You know, the things that are still really hard and very difficult to deal with are behaviors that we consider bullying. You know, people pushing each other or making fun of each other because maybe the clothes that they're wearing, or they act differently, look differently. And that's a societal thing that's really tough to tackle, but it's one of those things that really are the thing that upsets me. You should be a good human being because it's a right thing to do. You should be a good human being because it is good to help others. And when people aren't doing that, when people are picking on other folks or making them feel bad or hurting them, to me that's the worst possible human trait we can exhibit. It leads to things like crime. It leads to people getting hurt, child abuse, spousal abuse. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it leads to war. It's the worst side of human nature coming out, and I don't like it, and I don't want to tolerate it. And so, consequently, We try to be pretty tough on that. And my assemblies were really designed to hammer home what you're here for as a student. Teachers are here to teach and to influence the learning. Those are the things that teachers can do. Students are here to learn and be active learners and to behave. Very simple combination, very simple formula. The world tries to make it sound more than that. Basically, that's what it boils down to. And in my assemblies, you know, I challenged our students. I challenged my 6th grade. I challenged my 7th and 8th graders to start out the year doing the right thing by their folks and treating people well. And I think it's paid off. I'm looking folks in the eye and telling them the truth straightly. You know, if a child comes in here and they've been picking on another child, there's no excuses for that. None whatsoever. The choices we make, we own. Nobody can make us do the wrong thing. It's us deciding to do that. And there will be people who disagree with me, and it may be an unpopular position to take, but it's one that has never failed me. It's not failed my children. Never failed my parents or my grandparents. So it's something that's ingrained in my heart and my mind, that people can choose to do the right thing and should. And so that's what was my messages in the assemblies, and it seemed like it took hold. And I think my students are responding, and we have had, consequently, very few discipline issues. In fact, I can't even count on one finger the number of issues we've had thus far, which is good. And what are we in? Almost into our second full week of school. So I'm hoping that it continues throughout the full 180 days.
What's your number one goal at KMS this year?
Our number one goal at KMS is to improve learning. That is that if you're a 6th grader, you should have, in your learning, have grown enough to be a 7th grader. In other words, you should have a full year of academic growth. And so our goal is every child to get at least 8 years worth of academic growth. Some of our kids come to us as 6th graders, but they may be at a 4th grade level. So our goal is, if they come to us at 4th grade, that at least we move them forward enough that they're at 5th grade. And so that 1 year of annual learning growth is really the thing that we're focusing on this year. And to do that, we're focusing on the basics. You know, it sounds crazy, but knowing your multiplication tables, knowing how to add and subtract, knowing how to multiply and divide, knowing how to write a complete sentence with your words spelled correctly, and putting those sentences together to make a coherent essay or a paragraph form type of writing is something that will last a lifetime, and that's the things that we're focusing on. Build that base, and then a child has a chance to build a good structure of learning on a good foundation, and that's our main goal.
I understand the school within a school. What students is this program designed to help?
The school within a school, or the Koogler Academy classes, which, by the way, I really thank our community, our school board, for supporting this idea. These are kids who haven't never been a behavior issue on campuses. Those kids that sit in the back of the classroom or in the middle of the classroom and never say anything, but struggle and have been passed on from kindergarten to us. And the expectation is that they'll sit in that chair and learn something if they continue that way. And what we recognize at Koogler is that that's not going to happen. It's craziness. Einstein said, you know, if you do the same thing over and over and expect different results, that's insanity. Well, if we keep passing children on without having some form of intervention to help them get at least their feet under them so they can start learning, like knowing how to do basic mathematics, knowing how to read, knowing how to write, before we pass them on, then we're doing them an injustice. And so that Tiger Academy are those kids who have fallen through the cracks, and it's our attempt to help them. They're not special education students, they're not behavior students, they're just good kids who just need a little bit of extra tender love and care in the form of folks who truly want them to be successful and are going to do whatever it takes to get them there. And oftentimes that doesn't look like seats in a row with a teacher up in the front. And if you go and visit those classrooms, we've got technology in the room. We've got different seating arrangements. We've got different projects. Just a different approach to learning to see if we can help those kids. Because obviously, the rows, sitting in a row with the teacher in the front and going through the learning and then taking a test hasn't helped them. So we're just trying something a little bit different with them, which is refreshing that the community wanted that. My goal before I retire is to actually have somebody donate the money, or groups of people donate the money, so we can build a greenhouse, so we can have an industrial type learning situation for kids who maybe don't get it in the classroom, but learn by doing. And that would be awesome if we could do something like that.
Thank you, Mr. Espinoza, for answering our questions. We really appreciate how much time and effort you put into KMS.
Well, you're welcome, and I love what I'm doing, and I love this community. I was born and raised here, and went through the school systems here, and they did good by me, and I'd like to do the same for the many others that come through our hall.